welcome to Swim Chats, a podcast about swimming. I'm Shona Riddell, a writer and swimmer from Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. For each episode, I talk to a different guest from our global swim community. Please hit the follow button so you don't miss an episode, share the podcast with a friend or two, and leave a star rating so that other people can discover it. If you're a regular listener, please consider becoming a swim buddy on Patreon at patreon.com/swimchats to help me keep running the podcast. There's a link in the episode description. So, welcome to the special episode about sea and swimming poetry. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and returning guest, Sinead. Sinead, welcome back to the podcast.
Delighted to have another opportunity to talk all things swimming and writing and poetry, Shona.
It's great to see you. So Sinead and I last recorded an episode together about movies, music and books about swimming. So for those who haven't heard that episode, I'll link to it in the show notes. And we had so much fun doing that episode that we decided to do another one. And this one's about poems because we both enjoy poems about swimming and the sea. And so what we're going to do is take turns reading some of our favourite swim poems, more or less organised by theme or location or sort of general vibe. But what I'll do is I'll put a full list of the poems we read in the episode show notes so people can have a look at the full list and see what we're covering. But before we get started, just a couple of quick sort of housekeeping notes. One is that we won't be talking about Lord Byron's famous swim poem in this episode because he's already been covered in one of my history episodes with John Hancock that I recorded last year. The episode's called Swimming with Lord Byron. So for those who haven't heard that episode, I'll just recap Byron's story quickly. Lord Byron was the Romantic poet who swam across the Hellespont, or now called the Dardanelles Strait, in 1812. And so according to my sources, that swim was about 4 kilometres, but current assisted, which would make it feel more like possibly 3 kilometres or 3.5. But after that swim, he wrote a poem called Written After Swimming from Sestos to Abydos. And his poem is about the Greek mythological figure Leander, who swam across the same body of water each night to visit his lover Hero, who lived in a tower, and she would light a lantern to show him the way, and they would have their special nightly visits. No spoilers, but there's a bit of a sort of Romeo and Juliet element to the story. Which is quite a major spoiler, really. But yeah, basically it all goes well until it doesn't. Second note is that we also won't be talking about the Wellington poet Kate Camp or her swimming poems in this episode because she has her own episode where she came on the podcast and read one of her beautiful poems. So again, I'll link to that in the show notes. And just sort of more generally about this poetry episode we're about to do, even if you don't consider yourself a poetry person, but you probably do because you're already listening, but even if you're not sure what to expect, I'll just say that Sinead and I aren't about to do deep dives, no pun intended, or sort of analytical deconstructions of all these poems. It's purely about just the enjoyment of reading the poems so you can listen to them and get a sort of sensory feel for the pleasures of swimming, the salty air, the morning sun, all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And my final note before I finally let Sinead get talking is that when I was collecting poems for this episode, I asked around my reading and writing friends for suggestions, and a number of people came forward with some great ones. So I'd like to acknowledge Catherine, Sophia, Kate, Fiona, Remy, Frank and Rachel for helping contribute to this episode. So, Sinead, while I take a breath, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just keen to get started. That was a great introduction, Shona. And yeah, it was definitely worth mentioning the Byron poem because it probably is the most famous swimming poem of all time. But that's not to say we haven't got some brilliant ones to read to you today.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, shall we start with our readings?
Yeah, well, I thought before we'd get into specific swimming poems that it might be good to acknowledge some great poetry which is more generally about the sea. And I thought you might start us off, actually, Shona, with a beautiful poem by D.H. Lawrence. And then I'll follow up with some other great poets by the sea, of the sea.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Sinead. I must admit to some slight performance anxiety as I start doing these readings, but I'm sure I'm sure they will go very well. So yeah, this one's called Mana of the Sea by D.H. Lawrence. Do you see the sea breaking itself to bits against the islands, yet remaining unbroken, the level great sea? Have I caught from it the tide in my arms that runs down to the shallows of my wrists and breaks abroad in my hands like the waves among the rocks of substance? Do the rollers of the sea roll down my thighs and over the submerged islets of my knees with power, sea power to break against the ground and the flat, recurrent breakers of my 2 feet? And is my body ocean, ocean whose power runs to the shores along my arms and breaks in the foamy hands whose power rolls out to the white, trending waves of 2 salt feet? I am the sea. I am the sea.
Gorgeous. Well, as well as D.H. Lawrence of the classic English poets, Keats is very famous. John Keats is very famous for his Ode to the Sea. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, a Sonnet to the Sea, sorry, it's called. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a few lines. And it's funny, whenever I read this poem, I always think of my English teacher at school, and I can hear her voice reading it because she loved this poem and she made us learn it by heart. And so if I break into a kind of a weird Irish country accent reading it, it's because I'm remembering her reading it to us. So these are the few lines from John Keats' Sonnet to the Sea. O ye who have your eyeballs vexed and tired, feast them upon the wideness of the sea. O ye whose ears are dinned with uproar rude, or fed too much with cloying melody. Sit you near some old cavern's mouth and brood, until ye start as if the sea nymphs choired.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sinead. I love how you mentioned your English teacher. Like, we always remember our great teachers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it reminded me that in the 1990s, when I was a teenager, I watched Dead Poets Society. Do you remember
Oh,
that
yeah.
movie?
I do remember that
I
movie.
was so inspired by it. It just really gave me this love of English, and I ended up doing a degree in English literature at university.
Well,
So,
you did the right thing. I wish I'd done the same, but anyway.
well, it feels like 1,000 years ago now, but if I have any credentials for this episode, it's the fact that I did a degree in English
Fantastic.
in
Well,
1996.
yeah, if I've any credentials, it's the love of poetry installed in me by Mrs. Skian. So she's no longer with us, but I did write to her later in my life and just acknowledge and just thanked her for giving me this love of poetry because it's such a joy in my life. And the double joy of poetry and swimming today has just got me buzzing.
That's so cool. I love how you wrote to her. That's such a good idea to write and thank the people who inspire us.
Oh, we should always do that. Yeah. Well, the other my other favorite poet of the sea is Paulo Neruda, the Chilean poet, and he wrote beautiful odes to the sea. even though, in fact, he couldn't swim. But he was surrounded, of course, being in Chile. Well, there's such a long, beautiful coastline there. So he was obviously inspired by that. And later in his life, he lived in the Mediterranean, overlooking the sea. So um, he was in love with the sea, as you'll see from his poems. So I'm going to read a few lines from one which is simply entitled "The Sea," and it goes, "I need the sea because it teaches me. I don't know if I learn music or awareness, if it's a single wave or its vast existence, or only its harsh voice or its shining suggestion of fishes and ships. The fact is that until I fall asleep, in some magnetic way, I move in the university of the waves." The sea is really our university, isn't it? For us swimmers, you know. Yeah, we've all been to university in some way or another, but honestly, to get in the sea, and it can teach you everything, as his poem says. He has another one called Ode to the Sea, and it's a bit different, and I'll read a few lines of that. "Here on the island, the sea, and so much sea, overflowing, relentless, it says yes, then no, then yes in blue. In foam with gallops, it says no and again no. It cannot stay still. My name is sea, it repeats while slamming against rocks. Father Sea, we know already what you are called. All the seagulls circulate your name on the beaches. Now behave yourself. Don't shake your mane. Don't threaten anyone. Don't smash against the sky your beautiful teeth. Ignore for a moment your glorious history. Give to every man, to every woman, and to every child a fish, large or small, every day."
Thank you, Sinead. All right, now we're moving closer to home, and we have a couple of New Zealand swimming poems, and also one Maori pepeha, which is it's like a proverb. So this one that I'm about to read is from iwi and whanganui, and so I'll read the te reo and then I'll read the English translation. E rere ko mai te awa nui, mai I te kāhui maunga ki Tangaroa. Ko au te awa, ko te awa, ko au. The river flows from the mountains to the sea. I am the river is me.
That's
I
so
love that one.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does
yeah.
feel like, doesn't it? It's yeah, like we're part of the water.
Yeah,
And
we are the water. You know, the way in your Pepia you say, my, my river is, I am that river, I am that sea. It's so beautiful.
yeah.
I believe you also have a lovely poem by Roma Potiki.
Yeah, so this is a New Zealand poet, and the name of the poem is And My Heart Goes Swimming. And my heart goes swimming. Wet and limpid, it hangs between waves of salt. A warm heart in cold green waters, deep to the bottom. Wave after wave washing a little skin, sailing, and my heart goes swimming. A fisherman scoops the sea, finds a heart in his hand. No cold fish, warm, red blood, black hair, blonde. A night of swimming. Open eyes laugh, see us, love. The man and my heart celebrate. And in the morning, warm water from the tap. But now, the fisherman has fish to catch. See, he has a net and sinkers. Back to the sea, my heart goes swimming. Wave after wave, no fish could swim like my heart goes swimming.
Gorgeous. And I'm going to follow that up with some lines from a wonderful Pakeha New Zealand poet called Rachel McAlpine, of whom I'm sure many of your listeners have heard. And she calls this an instant poem, like she says she just sort of wrote it on the way to the beach. So it's fairly um, it's not very kind of polished, but I think it's gorgeous. So It's quite long also. I'm just going to read you some of it. Sea swimming in spring, an instant poem. When I leave home for the gym, I'm often thinking, no, this is no day for a swim. But then I see the sea ahead, and all my wimpiness has fled. It's dead. A blue sea with sunshine sparkling, a grey sea soaking up cloud reflection, a black sea gritty with icy flecks, a brown sea growling with breakers, a green sea with puzzling projections. I love the passing conversations with the dabblers and the paddlers. I love the mighty distant swimmers, all of them shining with that triumphant swimmer's joy. I love the seabirds pottering and fishing. I love the children on the beach. I love the heavenly extension when I shut my eyes and whisper, I am the sea and the sea is me.
I love that poem so much. I love how she acknowledges the different types of swimmers as well, the dabblers and the paddlers and the mighty distant swimmers.
Yeah,
Re-
it's great. Yeah.
So our next collection is of the theme "Swimming Can Heal and Save You." So there's quite positive ones. The next one I'm going to read is by Maxine Kumin, who was or is poet laureate and Pulitzer Prize winner for poetry. It's called Morning Swim. Into my empty head there come a cotton beach, a dock wherefrom I set out oily and nude through mist and chilly solitude. There was no line, no roof or floor to tell the water from the air. Night fog, thick as terry cloth, closed me in its fuzzy growth. I hung my bathrobe on two pegs. I took the lake between my legs. Invaded and invader I went overhand on that flat sky. Fish twitched beneath me, quick and tame. In their green zone they sang my name. And in the rhythm of the swim, I hummed a 2/4 time slow hymn. I hummed Abide with me, the beat, rose in the fine thrash of my feet. Rose in the bubbles I put out, slantwise trailing through my mouth. My bones drank water, water fell. Through all my doors I was the well that fed the lake, that met my sea, in which I sang, Abide with me.
Oh, that's so gorgeous. And I hadn't heard of Maxine Kumin, so I'm definitely going to have to check out more poems by that poet.
It's such a pleasure to read that one because it's just got this beautiful rhythm and perfect rhyme.
Yeah. Well, the next few lines I'm going to read are just from a blog that I found online, written by dawn swimmers and wild swimmers from around the world. It looks like they all contributed a few lines to a very long um, poem called Water is My Prayer. And again, I'm just going to read a few lines of it. May joy be my favorite stroke as I glide through river, ocean, stream, or lagoon. May I be wise, bountiful, and ruthless like great ocean to do what must be done. May I simply be water, adaptive, flowing, soft yet determined, unapologetic for being what it is, as water is itself. I breathe with the earth, and water is my prayer.
It's beautiful.
We have a very special treat now, listeners. And that is a poem written by our very own Shona Riddle. And I think you're going to all relate to this, all you Wellington swimmers. So take it away, Shona.
Oh, now I have major performance anxiety. Okay. So when I was collecting all these poems together, I felt inspired to write my own. And I've been enjoying the scenic saunas that we have in different parts of Wellington. One's been in Scorching Bay at the moment down the road from me. And so the idea is you book out a spot in the sauna and if you want, you can go in and out of the sauna and into the sea, which is it's just so much fun. So my poem is called From Sauna to Sea on a Rainy Autumn Day. After 10 hot minutes, it's time to break free of the sizzling coals, soggy towels, and pink faces. I fling open the wooden door and the cold rain meets my face like a celebration. My feet patter over the thick beach grass, the firm sand. I'm running to meet the sea. The world widens as my toes touch the shoreline. The pale sea blends with the heavy sky like a watercolour, and it's so calm on the surface that I can see thousands of raindrops punching holes as I slide in.
That's gorgeous, Shona. Makes me want to go and book a sauna straight away.
They should use that as part of their
Experience.
marketing.
Yeah, exactly. You should sell it to them and they can put it up on, they can put it up in the sauna for people to read, and that
Oh,
really
yeah.
inspire repeat custom.
I'll suggest it, Michael.
Do. Well, I'm a complete Japanophile and I love haiku and you know, we have our little Wahine Wai swimming meet on Saturday mornings, but we also meet every full moon. And I wanted to acknowledge Kim here because Kim organizes us and tells us when it is full moon and what time the full moon is going to rise and encourages us all, especially in winter, to overcome our resistance and get down to the sea and be in it when the moon rises. And it's so worth it when you make yourself do it. It can at this time of the year mean going out after dark and all that, but it's completely worth it to be in the sea with the moon shining down on us. I've got such magical memories. In fact, we've got one coming up this Sunday because it's going to be blue moon. And so, second opportunity in the month of May, when there's two full moons in a calendar month. So, Kim, let us know where to be and we'll be there.
Thank you, Kim. And it reminds me, I subscribe to Outdoor Swimmer magazine, which is the UK magazine about wild swimming, and that they have a theme each month. And this month's theme is night swimming, which is such a
Ah,
cool theme. Yeah. So I'll lend you that issue, Sinead. I think you'll really
I'd love
enjoy.
to read it. Yeah. Yeah, well, just as a nod to Kim's getting us organized for these wonderful full moon swims, I'm going to read a little haiku by the, the most famous haiku master of all time, Matsuo Basho. And it goes, the full moon, 7 story songs of a woman turning towards the sea.
Awesome. Thank you, Sinead. I love haiku as well. They're small but powerful.
Yeah, you've got a small
What were you
but
going
powerful one next. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So that leads nicely into my poem, which is E. E. Cummings. A lot of listeners would have heard of them. And this is a sort of playful poem called Maggie and Millie and Molly and May. And it goes, Maggie and Millie and Molly and May went down to the beach to play one day. And Maggie discovered a shell that sang so sweetly she couldn't remember her troubles. And Millie befriended a stranded star whose rays 5 languid fingers were. And Molly was chased by a horrible thing which raced sideways while blowing bubbles. And May came home with a smooth round stone, as small as a world and as large as a lone. Whatever we lose, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's one that I think, if you're introducing children to poetry, would be a lovely way in because it's so playful and gorgeous.
Next theme is drowning in mermaids. So,
Ooh.
yeah, the tone is getting a little bit darker here, and it's referring to drowning, obviously, as a literal cause of death, but also sort of metaphorical drowning, right? We use drowning to refer to struggling. Yeah. So, my next poem is one that actually several people recommended, and it's called Not Waving But Drowning by Stevie Smith. Nobody heard him, the dead man, but still he lay moaning. I was much further out than you thought, and not waving, but drowning. Poor chap, he always loved larking, and now he's dead. It must have been too cold for him. His heart gave way, they said. Oh, no, 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 it was too cold always. Still the dead moon lay moaning. I was much too far out all my life, and not waving, but drowning.
Ooh, yeah, that one is chilling, but such a
Mm,
great poem. Yeah.
very powerful.
Um, yeah. Well, um, I'm going to read one by William Butler Yeats, my fellow countryman. And it's called Man, Young and Old, the Mermaid. And I should say before reading it that, we love mermaids and we think of ourselves as mermaids a lot of the time. But when you read the mermaid poetry, especially that written by men, it's often quite dark and, dare I say, misogynistic, and sort of blames the mermaid for luring sailors to their deaths and all that. And this is a little bit along those lines. Man, young and old, the mermaid. A mermaid found a swimming lad, picked him for her own, pressed her body to his body, laughed, and plunging down, forgot in cruel happiness that even lovers drown.
Mm, that's another dark one, isn't it? The idea
Yeah,
that the mermaid using the boy as sort of her plaything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of
th- I
mermaid
did.
poems are like that. Yeah,
A lot of mermaid poems are like that, and I think mermaids will deserve their own episode of Swim Chats at some point.
I think so. And
I'd
we
love to
may have
unpack
to.
her.
I think we should definitely do a mermaid episode and present more positive view of our
Definitely,
creature.
because these days we have professional mermaids, like people who mermaids as a career.
We
Yeah,
we
so
do. So we might get them to talk to us. That would be so cool.
So the next theme is a very specific sort of subgenre of swimming poems, which is political swimming poems. And I don't know how many of these there are, but we've got one by Chairman Mao, and it's called Swimming. So just a little bit of context for this one. Chairman Mao swam across the Yangtze River more than once, actually. He swam across it in the 1950s and in the 1960s. So this was when he was sort of aged in his 60s and 70s. And the purpose of the swims were to demonstrate courage and strength. So the one in 1956 was right before the Great Leap Forward, and the one in the 1960s was right before the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. So the distance of the swim was about 15 kilometres, but apparently the current assist of the river was never acknowledged. So state media perhaps exaggerated his speed as well when they said he swam 15 kilometres an hour, which would have been a world record and surpassed any Olympian speed. um,
To be
but
taken
anyway,
with a grain of salt, I think.
to be taken with a good cup of salt. Yep. So anyway, this is just part of his poem "Swimming," which he wrote in 1956. I have drunk the waters of Changsha and come to eat the fish of Wuchang. Now I am swimming across the great Yangtze, looking afar to the open sky of Chu. Let the wind blow and waves beat. Better far than idly strolling in a courtyard. And I think
Yeah,
that's a bit rough on people who like to stroll around courtyards.
yes. I was also reading somewhere, Shona, that Chairman Mao liked to hold meetings in a swimming pool, and there was two
Oh.
reasons for that. One was to show off his swimming prowess because he was very proud of his physical capabilities, and another was to kind of demoralize whoever he was having the meeting with, because not everybody likes getting naked or semi naked and jumping in a pool to have major meetings. And once, from the Soviet Union, Khrushchev went to visit him, and they were to have a very serious, meeting between Russia and China. And he made him undress and put on his togs and hop into a pool. And so Khrushchev was immediately at a disadvantage, having to 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 have the meeting under those circumstances, and it gave Mao the upper hand. So he yeah, we don't have any poems about swimming pools in this episode, but yeah, that was a way that he used the swimming pool.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Certainly one way to conduct meetings.
Well, you or I mightn't mind it, but the leader of the Soviet Republic arriving in Beijing, having to, yeah,
Put on
expecting.
bathers and get in the pool, yeah.
Mm. Well, we thought we'd read a couple of poems now about swimming and the sea, really, by some famous women poets to begin with. The first one, Sylvia Plath. So I'll read that one, Shona. It's called Aquatic Nocturne. Deep in liquid indigo, turquoise slivers of dilute light quiver in thin streaks of bright tin foil on mobile jet. Pale flounder waver by tilting silver. In the shallows, agile minnows flicker gilt. Grape blue mussels dilate lithe and pliant valves. Dull lunar globes of bulbous jellyfish glow milk green. Eels twirl in wily spirals of elusive tails. Adroit lobsters amble darkly olive on shrewd claws. Down where sound comes blunt and wan, like the bronze tone of a sunken gong.
Wow.
You have to read her
Um,
poems a few times, but we'll have it up on the on your
to
notes. So
unpack.
that
Yeah.
one takes a bit of digesting. What are you
Yeah. I sort of felt it went dark at the end. Beautiful color descriptions and just sensory feelings on that one.
Yeah.
So my poem is Nude Swim by Anne Sexton, an American poet. On the southwest side of Capri, we found a little unknown grotto where no people were, and we entered it completely and let our bodies lose all their loneliness. All the fish in us had escaped for a minute. The real fish did not mind. We did not disturb their personal life. We calmly trailed over them and under them, shedding air bubbles, little white balloons that drifted up into the sun by the boat, where the Italian boatman slept with his hat over his face. Water so clear you could read a book through it. Water so buoyant you could float on your elbow. I lay on it as on a divan. I lay on it just like Matisse's red odalisque. Water was my strange flower. One must picture a woman without a toga or a scarf on a couch as deep as a tomb. The walls of that grotto were every colour blue, and you said, "Look, your eyes are sea colour. Look, your eyes are sky colour," and my eyes shut down as if they were suddenly ashamed.
Oh, I love Anne Sexton. It's very sad, that both Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton both took their own lives when they were still very young. And as you said earlier, swimming, drowning, those kind of metaphors are often used for people having emotional and mental health struggles. And those two certainly did, but not, and died, but not before they left us some really beautiful poems.
Yeah, that's right. And I have actually been to Capri. I don't think I swam there. It was a long time ago, but the colours of the water there are just extraordinary. I've
Ah,
never seen a blue like it. Yeah.
got to go there sometime. Well, now we have a famous male poet, and he's Irish too, like Yeats, and another Nobel Prize winner. And in Ireland, we simply call him Famous Seamus, but yeah, Seamus Heaney. And the poem is called "The Otter." When you plunged, the light of Tuscany wavered and swung through the pool from top to bottom. I loved your wet head and smashing crawl, your fine swimmer's back and shoulders, surfacing and surfacing again this year and every year since. I sat dry-throated on the warm stones, you were beyond me. The mellowed clarities, the grape deep air, thinned and disappointed. Thank God for the slow loadening. When I hold you now, we are close and deep as the atmosphere of water. My two hands are plumbed water. You are my palpable, lithe otter of memory. In the pool of the moment, turning to swim on your back, each silent, thigh-sharking kick, retilting the light, heaving the cool at your neck. And suddenly you're out, back again, intent as ever, heavy and frisky in your freshened pelt, printing the stones.
That's gorgeous. I wish I could swim like an otter.
Yeah, they're such beautiful creatures.
My next poem is The Swimmer by Mary Oliver. All winter the water has crashed over the cold sand. Now it breaks over the thin branch of your body. You plunge down, you swim 2 or 3 strokes, you dream of lingering in the luminous undertow, but can't. You splash through the bursting white blossoms, the silk sheets gasping. You rise and struggle lightward, finding your way through the blue ribs, back to the sun, and emerge as though for the first time. Poor fish, poor flesh, you can never forget. Once every wall was water, the soft strings filled with a perfect nourishment, pumping your body full of appetite, elaborating your stubby bones, tucking in like stars, the seeds of restlessness that made you, finally, swim toward the world, kicking and shouting, but trailing a mossy darkness, a dream that would never breathe air and was hinged to your wildest joy like a shadow.
So special. I just love Mary Oliver. You know, her poems are just full of joy and wild joy and, depict nature so lovingly, and I can't get enough of her. Another wonderful woman poet lost to us recently, but not under tragic circumstances, I'm glad to say. But yeah, she died recently, maybe a year or two ago.
Hmm. So we're coming towards the end already. It's gone very quickly. So we're going to finish with some smaller poems. The one I'm about to read is very short, but I love it. It's by Pippa Best, who lives in the UK, and she runs Sea Soul Blessings, which some of the listeners will be familiar with. And it's called Salted. Those who dip in the sea to start the day are not nuts. They just feel more ready. Salted.
Make me feel like a peanut. That's great. Yeah. And the short one that I'm going to read is by an 8th century Japanese courtesan called Lady Nakatomi. And everybody probably knows about the pearl divers in Japan and Korea, the women who free dive down to collect oysters, hoping that they may contain pearls and help feed their families and all that. So this poem is called Pearl Diver. And I think of all the poems I've ever read in my life, this is one of my favorite. Pearl Diver. No one dives to the ocean bottom just like that. One does not learn the skills involved at the drop of a hat. It's those skills slow learned in the depths of love that I'm working at.
Mm.
Shona, not to be outdone by you, I decided also that I'd pen a few lines of my own to include in the podcast. So would you indulge me in reading those to finish off?
I would urge you to read it. Because I've read it myself and I love it. Yeah. And I
Oh,
know other people would too. So go for it.
well, this is dedicated to all the women in the Wahine Y wild swimming group that meets at Claude's Cove and other places. Winter swims, Saturday morning, Claude's Cove. I should stay home this morning. It's so cold out there. I've so much to do. Piles of laundry, my tax return overdue. My still warm bed beckons. It's so cold out there. All my unread books reprimanding me. I could fill a hot water bottle, make a pot of tea. Really, I should be doing something creative or constructive. Writing a book, even a poem would do. Finishing those socks I've been knitting for all eternity. I should tend my bonsai, make persimmon kimchi, declutter, be a mother. I could go out to the market and shop for persimmons and yuzu while they're still in season, return my library books, also overdue. There's that Japanese woodblock print exhibition and a friend in need of soup and sympathy. There are piles of porcini beneath the pine trees on the city to sea walkway. I could go foraging, get in my steps. At least I'd get to see the sea. The clock strikes 10, and then it's 10:30. I hop in my car and head to where the Wahine Y are, gathered, treasured wild women, swimming friends. The ocean is so happy to see us. We shiver and scream as we sashay in. The sea rewards us with kisses. We play in the waves, bubble, bubble, no more landlubber, toil or trouble. Happiness is this, immersing in the freedom of forgetfulness on a winter Saturday morning in June, finally choosing to follow my bliss.
I love it so much, Sinead. It really captures that feeling of, oh, I couldn't possibly get to the sea today. I've got so much on my to-do list, or I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. And then just making that little bit of time for ourselves and going and being with friends and connecting with the water. And then you actually come home galvanized, and you often sort of work through the to-do list anyway, right? It's just,
That's
you've got
right,
that
yeah.
bit of joy and energy. It's like filling your tank. Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, yeah. And a thought came to me this morning, Shona, that really when you're swimming in the sea, it's like a living poem, You don't actually need words. Just the act of swimming through the waves is in itself a poem.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And it's sort of like what I said in my poem about you feel like you're in a watercolor. Yeah, you feel like you're in a work of art, right? That you're
Yeah.
just part of everything, and it's a beautiful experience. Even in the crazy weather. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes because you're in crazy weather,
Sometimes the winter swims are the best.
yeah, you definitely get that cold buzz. Well, we've done it. We've read through all our poems.
We have, and that was so much fun, Shona. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you back on, and I hope listeners have enjoyed listening to these poems as much as we have enjoyed reading them.
I hope so too.
So, will this lead to a poetry book, Sinead? Could this be the beginning of a new...
Well, we should definitely get some kind of anthology of swimming poems together, Shona. I'm sure there is one, but maybe one that's focused on the swimming poetry of Aotearoa.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
A joint venture maybe for the future.
Exactly. We don't have to do it today. Thanks for listening to Swim Chats. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend or two. Also remember to hit follow to be notified when I post new episodes. To help other people discover the podcast, you can rate and review it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. If you're a regular listener, please visit patreon.com/swimchats to support the pod. Enjoy the water, and we'll see you next time.